In 2020, Apple didn't just release a new chip, they quietly made thousands of expensive laptops feel outdated overnight. And the craziest part, most people didn't even realize what just happened. Because before this, MacBooks had a problem. They got hot, loud, slow when pushed, battery drained like a leaking tank. Then the M1 showed up, and suddenly, silence. No fan noise, no heat. 15 to 18 hours of real battery life. It didn't feel like an upgrade, it felt like the rules had changed. But here's what almost nobody understood at the time. The real breakthrough wasn't speed, it was how the chip was built. Instead of separate parts talking back and forth like coworkers in different buildings, Apple put everything into one single system. CPU, GPU, RAM, neural engine, all in one place. No waiting, no copying data, just instant communication. That's why it felt so fast. And this was just the beginning, because a year later, Apple did something interesting. They didn't just make it faster, they made it scale. Now imagine you're editing 4K video, or running heavy code, or juggling 20 apps at once. That's where the M1 Pro comes in. More CPU cores, way more GPU power, and memory speed that jumps so high your files stop bottlenecking. Suddenly, this isn't just a laptop anymore, it's a workstation you can carry. But then Apple looked at that and basically said, not enough. Because the M1 Max didn't just improve things, it doubled them. This is where things start getting ridiculous. Massive GPU, insane memory bandwidth, up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. This isn't for casual users anymore. This is for people rendering 3D worlds, color grading films, training machine learning models. And here's the twist most people miss. The CPU didn't change that much. The real jump, graphics, and how fast data moves. Which means if you don't need GPU power, you're wasting money going higher. But Apple wasn't done. Not even close. Because then they built something that sounds almost fake. They took two of their most powerful chips and fused them together. Literally. This is the M1 Ultra, 20 CPU cores, up to 64 GPU cores, 128 gigabytes of memory, and a memory bandwidth so fast it feels like the chip is thinking ahead of you. This isn't a laptop chip anymore, this is a studio engine, the kind of machine that replaces setups worth tens of thousands. But right when you think Apple hit the ceiling, they reset the game again. Because the M2 wasn't about shock, it was about refinement. Slightly faster CPU, better GPU, stronger AI processing. Nothing crazy, but smoother, cleaner, more efficient. And here's the important part. If you had M1, you didn't need this. But if you didn't, this felt like a massive jump. And then came the Pro and Max versions again. Same formula, more cores, more bandwidth, more power. But something big happened here. For the first time, Apple completely replaced Intel even in their most powerful machines. That's not an upgrade, that's a takeover. And then 2023 arrived. This is where things actually get wild. Apple moved to 3 nanometers. Now that sounds like a small number, but it changed everything. Smaller transistors, more power, less energy. The M3 wasn't just faster, it was smarter. And for the first time, graphics started catching up to gaming machines. Hardware ray tracing, real-time lighting, better rendering. Your laptop started behaving like a console. And for most people, this was already overkill. But Apple still kept climbing. M3 Pro, M3 Max, more power, more memory, more everything. And then came something almost absurd. The M3 Ultra, a chip so powerful, it can run 24 streams of 8K video at once. Not one, not two, 24. At this point, it's not about capability anymore, it's about excess. And then Apple made a very strategic move. They stopped focusing only on speed and started focusing on something bigger, AI. Because the M4 isn't just a chip, it's an AI engine. It can perform 38 trillion operations per second. Let that sink in. Your laptop is now processing AI tasks in real time, removing backgrounds instantly, live transcription, smart editing. Things that used to need cloud servers now happen on your device. And this is where the future starts becoming visible, because Apple is no longer building computers, they're building intelligent machines. The M4 Pro and Max push this even further, more bandwidth than ever before. So fast, the chip never has to wait. And if you're a professional, this is where time literally turns into money.
But Apple didn't stop there. In 2025, they pushed it even further. This is the M5, built on a third-generation 3-nanometer process. More performance without more power. But the real upgrade? Neural accelerators. AI hardware that adapts in real time. And now, your computer isn't just running apps, it's thinking with them.
But then, just when it felt like Apple had a clear pattern, they broke it completely. Because in 2026, Apple did something nobody expected. They put an iPhone chip into a laptop. This is the A18 Pro, same chip as the iPhone, and somehow it keeps up with laptop processors. That shouldn't be possible, but it is. Because Apple's chips don't rely on brute force, they rely on efficiency. Fewer cores, more output. And the result is a completely silent laptop. No fan, 16 hours of battery life, starting at just $599. This changes everything, because now the line between phone and computer is gone. And that raises a bigger question. If a phone chip can power a laptop today, what happens in the next 5 years? And now the only question that actually matters. Which one should you buy? Here's the truth. Most people don't need Pro, definitely don't need Max, and will never touch Ultra. A base M-series chip is already more powerful than what most people use daily. Editing, coding, content creation, it handles it all. Step up to Pro only if your work demands it. Max if your time is money. Ultra if you're running a studio. Because for the first time, the problem isn't performance anymore, it's choosing how much power you actually need. And that is a very different world than the one we had before.